everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cryptocurrent. Your host here, Richard Carthon. And today we got a special one for you. I know I've been looking forward to this conversation for a few weeks now, once I had it lined up. We have Bryan, who is the Karate Combat founder. So for any of you who are excited and do anything karate, not only are they the largest in the world for being able to organize this, but they also are starting to add some Web3 components that makes it especially exciting. So again, Robert, really want to appreciate you being here today. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me on, Richard. I appreciate it.
No doubt. Well, first, let's learn a little bit more about you before we get into Karate Combat. Can you give us some background on yourself?
Sorry, it was a little bit hard to hear your question. Could you repeat that?
Yeah. Can you give us just a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. So my background was traditionally in finance. Spent the first 10 years of my career in traditional finance, and I went over the entrepreneurial side about 10 years ago. The first company I started was MedSec. They essentially invented the market for medical device cybersecurity. Now they're the leaders in the space. And about 5 years ago, I had this interesting opportunity come across my desk where I thought there was a unique product market fit in combat sports for a striking league that's focused on the younger generation. And since then, I've been full steam ahead with Karate Combat, and it's really been an amazing journey.
That's excellent. What was your very first introduction that you ever heard about cryptocurrency or blockchain? Like, when did you first hear about the space?
Well, it was a long time ago. I remember it was, below $50. It was back when I was, in traditional finance. I remember it was on Bloomberg, and the history didn't even go back to the beginning. And a lot of people in my field were hesitant about it, right? Fake internet money. But I looked at it, I was like, hey man, this is a really, really small market cap, right? If this thing's going, the potential upside is huge. And I also have a background in electrical systems engineering, a little bit of programming, and I really like the technology. But unfortunately, we didn't have the flexibility to invest in it in our fund back then. But I've always thought that the space was quite interesting, and I've been arguing with a lot of my traditional finance friends about it. I think when Bitcoin was like 2,000 or 3,000, we're saying, hey, it's got some real steam here. There's some value just as a long-term stable investment. All the standard stuff we know today. And then now all those guys are working in Web3, so they've all come over the fence. So it's been an interesting journey.
Oh, definitely. I come from traditional finance as well. Learned about crypto back in 2018. As soon as I realized what was going on, I was like, oh yeah, this is the future. Let me head in this direction. So you come from traditional finance and you found yourself into karate. So talk about that just for a second, and then talk about how y'all's platform is now taking some of the elements of Web3 and incorporating it into your business.
Great. So it's not just karate. We're the top striking league in the world today. So what that means is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with MMA, that's sort of in a cage with small gloves, but you're allowed to wrestle. And a lot of the match takes place on the floor. Our league doesn't have that component. It's just striking. While wrestling can be interesting to some people who are experts in the space, to the general viewer, it's not quite as interesting. So we're trying to kind of make that more mainstream. There's a number of other elements that separate us from MMA. And then obviously boxing does include kicking and has different gloves. So that's sort of where we sit. Any type of single sport martial art that follows our rules is allowed. We have people from Taekwondo, all different walks, but it is most similar to karate, and karate has an excellent brand name. And we've been able to leverage, that base of excited karate participants to become the fastest growing sport worldwide today.
Yeah, and just going over your website, you have over 100 of the best fighters in the world. You're starting to get more and more involvement across the world. How's that growth been, and how are you seeing the world more open to looking at strike fighting as it continues to expand across the globe?
Yeah, well, I think I I think combat sports are going to have an amazing growth over the next 10 years. I think a lot of investors share that opinion. I think karate combat is something that can do even better in the space, given it's more mainstream. I think, you've seen other sports pave the way. Consumers are becoming more and more open to combat sports. It's not considered, the early crazy days of cage fighting. Now it's becoming more mainstream. And I think what we're doing is even more mainstream than that. We've removed a lot of the elements that create blood and gore. So I think that positions us quite well to capture even more of an outsized growth range over the next 10 years. Today, we always knew there's this huge base of karate participants. For instance, only 2.5 million people do MMA in the United States, over 10 million do karate. 100 million people do Shotokan, which is one type of karate worldwide. So when we put together the sport, previous to us, there wasn't a true sort of professional striking league for karate. We didn't know if all those participants were going to jump on board, but our first video that we put up had 5 million views. We really knew we were onto something. In the first season, we were on YouTube. We had about 250,000 views per video. Nothing like what we do today, but not bad. In season 2, we got picked up linear. That's on TV, and we had it digital as well. But what we did in season 2 that was interesting is we created a virtual backdrop. So you've got real fans, real Olympic fighters having a real fight, and in the background, we rendered a virtual background using movie software packages. So that resonated very well with the audience. And in season 3, we had a big jump. We basically picked up the top sports channel in over 100 countries. So we're on Globo in Brazil, Master Chief in Russia. We're the first combat sport on Eurosport 1 in 10 years. At that point, we were doing about over 1 million linear views per episode. Digitally, we were in sort of the 4 million range. And today, we're doing 6 million views digital, 2 million views on TV. We've gone back to live. In season 2 and 3, we weren't live to have that new sort of virtual backdrop. Now we're able to real-time render that backdrop using Unreal Engine, and the audience just loves it. Last month, we were the 25th biggest sport across social media. Over 200 million views per month, and we're really happy with the growth to date, but we think our Web3 plans are going to supercharge that, so we're even more excited about the next 2 years.
Definitely, and that's been explosive growth as you've been doing that, and just got to say congratulations on that type of growth. But like you said, I think adding these new Web3 components is going to help even bring it to the next level. So can you kind of talk to us a little bit about how you're doing that in the token side of things?
So we're doing something that's never been done in Web3 before, and when we're confident it's going to be a new category. We think it really uses Web3 tools to unleash incredible utility and customer acquisition. So I'll just go through our sort of killer application. So the way it'll work, our league's assets are already placed in the DAO. Like you've seen some other teams. A league has never done it before, but you've seen some other sports properties go that direction. We have a token that controls the league. But here's the killer application. So when we give away, and we're going to give away half of the league to the fans, they basically get a link like any other airdrop, and it goes to an app. So, someone who follows us on Instagram gets a link, they download the app, and they have 1,000 product tokens, right? They can vote on who fights who, what fighters are going to be signed by the league, which is all quite interesting. But the thing we think they really love is when they get the tokens in their wallet, when there's a fight coming up, there's a reminder. And they can, pick their favorite fighter to win. They can pick who they think is going to win. They can pick a group of fighters. And if their fighters win, they get more tokens. And if their fighters lose, they don't lose any tokens. It's not regulated gambling. So we think it's a really, really fun activity for the consumers. It'll make them highly incentivized. And we're really excited about how we think it'll change the sports landscape going forward.
So not only have you set up karate as a DAO, you're now giving out tokens to the viewers that are out there, to a lot of your hardcore fans that are out there, so they can now participate and start adding a gaming element to the experience that they're already having. What kind of drove this decision, and how do you think it's going to impact future growth for your viewers out there?
Well, I think a lot of Web3 models, will ultimately work, but they're unproven. I think customer acquisition via this method has been seen time and time again. While what we're doing is different from DraftKings, the customer acquisition model is very similar. Those guys created, $5-10 billion business relatively quickly. So I think the acquisition model has been proven out. And when I look at the other traditional sports competitors, right, you have the UFC, who's the market leader by far, and then you have some other new entrants. And it's very hard for them to get fans today to care about a new fighter. They have to put that fighter in front of you, 20 times, all these viral clips. A lot of some of the fighters they have might not be that interesting. It's very, very difficult to get fans to care about their fighters. But if you look at all the data out there, and by the way, there's more and more sort of gaming, gaming-related activity as the generations get younger. But when you look at what we're doing, if I give 1,000 tokens to a dentist, even if the guy is doing really well, making a lot of money, all the research shows he's going to tune in and he's going to watch the fight, and he's really going to care about the fighter. And after you've seen a fighter once and been behind him, the next time he comes up, he's still going to be interested. Sports are the stickiest model in Web3. A lot of Web3 products, they have to keep engaging. It's very hard. You always have to stay ahead of the curve in the community. With sports, that sort of built-in stickiness. So that's why we think that this is the perfect customer acquisition model.
Yeah, and to your point, people love sports. People tune in all the time, and people, the sooner that they get involved, the longer they typically stay. It's a very low churn type of situation. And I think there's other elements that you're going to be adding in the future as well that I think are going to continue to build upon that experience, from NFTs, potentially creating your own metaverse side of it. And we don't have to get too deep into all of that. But I think as you keep layering more and more of these Web3 elements, it's going to just keep heightening that overall experience that you're bringing to your audience.
Yeah, we agree completely. I think, a lot of the tools used in, GameFi and other spaces, I think sports are a better application. And, you've seen NBA do things like Top Shots, which is somewhat interesting, but you really haven't seen any sports leagues go all the way and really incorporate Web3 to their ethos and the core of the product. And that's what we're looking to do. And we think that the opportunity is definitely there.
So now that you've been working in this for a few years, you've definitely been able to take away quite a few lessons as you build this out. So I kind of want to take this into two different directions. The first is, like, with everything that you've learned, if you could go give yourself 1 to 2 pieces of wisdom, what would you tell yourself?
Well, hopefully I wouldn't have to tell myself the biggest issue, because the regulatory environment will have been solved. What we're doing is very unique on that front. There were tons of learning processes I had to go through. Everything from setting up a DAO now, where a lot of the regulatory environment was unclear. I've learned a ton there. I wish I could tell myself, a lot of what I've learned in that process. And then the other thing was, but once again, hopefully I won't have to, because there'll be a clear regulation. So many people have done it by then. It'll be a cookie cutter model. And I think that's the way it'll go. The other big thing is, if you're really going to incorporate Web3 into a traditional business, how to get buy-in from your company. We did fumble through a little bit. We had a number of employee sessions. And when they first came on board, to be honest, we were in a fight league. Most of them don't have the faintest idea what cryptocurrency is. They definitely don't know DAO concepts. When you first explain it to them, they're like, okay, some guy on the internet going to be telling me how to do my marketing job, or are these guys going to have, the best fighter fight the worst fighter in the league? And I kind of explained the concept of, constrained delegation, how we're setting up, and how we can actually get feedback from the community. And now they're all loving it, right? They're in the Discord, the fight team's in there arguing with new people. Originally they were concerned about, signing new fighters, and they've already signed a couple of fighters literally from contacts in the Discord. So it was a long route for us, getting, the traditional corporate structure to really embrace what we're doing. Now they really like it, but if we would have had some better lessons along the way and had more of a straight route to doing that, I think it could have been a little bit smoother.
Yeah, I think those are two good takeaways. And it always helps with the journey and then the impact and the speed at which you hopefully get to your final destination or point of where you are today.
Yeah,
But
exactly. When you're on my side, you think everyone understands the basics of what we're doing. But you just have to make it a really, really slow and steady process and explain things multiple times. And then when they get there, they really like it.
oh, definitely. And with everything that you're building, of course, you got the token and all of that's coming out. Are there any other things that are coming out as you wrap up the end of 2022, as you go into 2023 that you're able to talk about?
Well, the token is definitely the biggest thing. Like I said, that's our killer application. We think the fans are going to love it. Beyond that, we've had incredible growth, but we're a very small team. And we've always been, towards open IP. So what we're doing now, the lawyers will yell at me and say, sorry, if I don't use the right jargon for this. It's not quite, permissionless IP. But what we're basically setting up is a system where a lot of our IP is able to be used at an extremely cheap rate, with a very small percentage going back to the token holders and a percentage going to the fighters. And the bigger percentage is actually going to the creators. Whether it be something in the metaverse, something on the NFT side, any sort of related game. And we're letting the community just go on top of us. We're not doing anything exclusive, and we're letting, sort of the best builders succeed. And, we announced that about 4 weeks ago. We already have 10 people building on top of us. Once the coin launches, it's going to accelerate. And, I hope they build stuff, better than I can next year. We really want to just do a great job at, the core league, continuing growth and leveraging, these simple DAO and the token Web3 tools. And for everything else, we want the community, the best people to be running that.
Yeah. And y'all continue to just keep adding and growing and elevating. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this right now is like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for something like this. I've always been passionate about karate and don't necessarily want to watch MMA and this other stuff, but this sounds really interesting to me. So for those who are listening, you can go to karate.com to get more information. But what are some other ways that people can connect with you and learn more about what y'all have going on at Karate Combat?
Yeah, karate.com. We're on all the social media platforms, but I would definitely enjoy joining the Karate Combat Discord. It's always a fun time in there. You've got a mix of Web3 guys, older athletes, younger athletes. It's a fun time, so I encourage people to check that out.
Perfect. And as we wrap up here, Robert, what is a final thought that you want to leave with all the listeners here today?
Well, we're really excited about what we're doing in sports. No one's ever done this before. We think it makes a lot of sense, and we just like people to follow our journey. We hope it'll be a new category, and we'd like everyone to follow us, give us advice, and participate in the project.
It sounds perfect. So again, as a reminder for everyone, you can go to karate.com for more information. They have a lot of really good information and a lot of cool things on the horizon. I know that I'm looking forward to checking out some matches in the future. And Robert, if people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Just, through Discord, info@karate.com. Those are the best ways.
Sounds perfect. Well, again, thanks again for being on the show. I appreciate all of the information. And as always, for everyone listening, stay cryptocurrent.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Cryptocurrent. Cryptocurrent is a cryptocurrency and blockchain education platform that's bridging the gap between the curious newcomers who are just discovering the space and the thought leaders who are shaping its future. All opinions expressed by Richard Carthon, the Cryptocurrent team, and their guests on this show are exclusively their own opinions. This show and any other Cryptocurrent production is exclusively for informational purposes.